Okay, hello. We're continuing Torah Samach. We're holding like in the middle of each Vav. We said that there are paths in Torah that have an amazing insight. The only way you can get it is if you have a great deal of wealth, and this wealth is the kedusha. Um, and the way to get it is by widening your days every single day. You try to add more and more kedusha to your life, and this is making arichas yomim. That's the wallet that enables the wealth to get into. And we explained that together you need yira, you need the fear of Hashem, and the fear of Hashem. We said there are three aspects to it: is Yir Sarav, which is pondering greatness of Hashem. Is Talmid, means that when you learn with your Shemaim. You learn, to be Mekayim, not because it's interesting or you know you want to be considered, Talmid Chacham, whatever it is. And so now we said that in order for the year be um, to be revealed, you have to, what's called Pkidas Akoris. That is getting women that were not able to give birth, barren women, they should be able to give birth, and they will become expecting. So we wondered, what has it got to do with us? It's like you have Kodesh Baruch himself was Poiked Sarah Meno. That's so. I'm supposed to be Poiked Koras. I mean, where do I come to the table here? So we said, the Rebbeinu says the Pkidas Akoros means that people who live their lives and they're basically sleepwalking. Says people think that they serve Kodesh Baruch Hu and they learn, but in truth, Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't have a noise from the avodah. Why? Because the avodah doesn't go up. What does it mean? Avodah doesn't go up. Feelers don't go up. What's the pshat? So we said that enachinami, the Kodesh Baruch Hu has nachas when you do a mitzvah. Baruch Hu has nachas from the fact that Kodesh Baruch Hu, as he wants you to do this, and you did it. That's one thing. This is your personal aspect. But besides that, in many places in Likutey Moharan, Rabbeinu explains that the Torah is actually when you are Mekayim mitzvahs, the Torah and mitzvahs that you keep and you're davening, they fix all the spiritual elements. It's not just a private business of yours. In order for this to happen, in order for your avodah, for your Torah, for your tefillah, that's what it means that the Torah goes up, the mitzvahs go up. They fix whatever it is and it's fixing, and they feed whatever needs feeding in the spiritual realms. Or the Mabriya, or the Mayitzira, or the Masir. That's all those. And if it doesn't do that, okay. So personally, Baruch Hashem, you become the mitzvah. But because Baruch Hu doesn't have a noise from it. Because Baruch Hu wants you, to sustain the entire creation in all of its physical and spiritual aspects. The Rebbe said that what causes a person to fall asleep? Following this, in other words, far from he says he's losing his face, the Rebbe calls it. The face is the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what causes a person to fall from a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So Rebbe says, first of all, there are obviously, taivas and averis, that desensitizes person and drives him away. it dims the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the point he doesn't even realize HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists, let alone be connected to him. It says, but there's also a very important aspect. It says that's the food. It says we came to this world in order to what is called mevara birurim, to sift, and separate the kernel from the chaff. Gashmis bruchnis. That's why we say that ultimately everything ends up as food. Kol amal ha'adam lefiu. The toil of every person ultimately ends up in his mouth. I mean, even if he has a yacht, what is it? You're going to eat the yacht. What are you going to do with it? You have so much money, you don't know what to do with it, so you buy a yacht. But the only thing that can be, clothes yourself, whatever it is, but mainly the main beer, the main sifting, the main purification process is going on with food. It says when a person eats something that was not purified enough for a human consumption, for a Jewish consumption, that means any stage. If if a behemoth wasn't shechted properly, or the meat wasn't processed properly, wasn't salted properly, and the whole so forth and so on. If there were no if it's if it's fruits and vegetables, whatever it is, the mice would be given out. Everything, first of all, the food itself should be absolutely fit for human consumption. Obviously, food should be totally ripe, and so forth and so on. But that's not enough. Once it gets to you, you need to eat it, because the bracha is separating again, the spiritual kernel from the spiritual chaff, and the act of chewing and the act of swallowing and so forth and so on. So the ultimate stage of purification, of separation between good and bad from the physical world, is the food that you eat. If you're not eating with a kavanah to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with it, if you don't want this particular cup of tea to become a line in the Gemara, so what it does, you get mikoyach, and I'll be able to learn Gemara afterwards. So this tea turns into a line in the Gemara, as it were. Just like a derech mashal. So that achila, it brings a person down begashmis and beruchnis. It makes him fall asleep. He loses his face. The face means he loses his connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu.
That's what you meant by eating non-kosher.
That's bechlal. I'm saying even when you eat kosher, when you don't make the bracha properly, when you don't have the right kavanah when you eat, all those are the later stages of the purification with the food, because the thing of what it does is, you're able to make mitzvahs for Hashem, learn Torah, but that connection that you should have your face, your real face, which means your real connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you're losing. But then it brings you down. Like they are working. They're making everything artificial today. Artificial meat, artificial milk, artificial this and that. So I spoke to a person. He tells me, the one thing that he's waiting for, the milk that they make in a lab, obviously it's parv. It's not milking. So he says the one thing is waiting with all this thing. He's not interested in all, the oats milk and this and that. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't even care about, milk for his coffee, whatever. The only thing is he's waiting for butter. Why are you waiting for butter? He wants to make steak. A steak with parv butter, and then to put a piece of garlic in it and some rosemary and baste it. And that makes you fall asleep. It's like, and you're talking about the Elishayid, talking about somebody who's there. Yeah. That particular, I don't think I'm very far off from that. But I'm also waiting for the butter. But anyhow, the thing is that Basically, this is what it is. They say Rabbi Nachman's told about his father, Rabbi Nachman Tulchina, who was the Talmud of Reb Nosson. He says his father never salted his food. Never added salt in his food. What's in Kippur, or he would walk home slowly. A little less time as a little. So they said that so sometimes when the food stuff is not purified properly, the heart gets spoiled. The heart is the first connection to anything is the heart. I mean, you can go in the street and they ask you, what do you see in the street? I say, I don't know. I'm passing in every street. You want me to tell you what happens in every single street I pass? I said, why? Because you're not paying attention. Your heart, you have no motivation. You're not interested. Being that the heart is interested. When the heart, it says, the heart is the thing that is yearning for connection with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now, if the food is not 100%, that dulls that ambition, that heartsick ambition, and that's why it says it's mekalkel. A person falls into a level of sleep. Now, Rabbeinu said this is the last thing that we see last time, that a person is not, you can't wake him up unless he wakes up himself. But the thing is, he has to wake up a little bit, but on his own. You can't just go on and pontificate and proselytize and be a missionary, and you can't do that. A person, you can tell people about it, you can do whatever, but in order to actually be mechaya a person, you can't do unless the person starts a little bit by himself. Once he starts by himself, then if that person wouldn't be awakened further, he would fall back asleep. So once the person wakes up, and you are able to wake him up further. How do you wake him up further? That's what Rabbeinu says. When you want to show somebody his face means his own personal connection to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And to waking up from his sleep. You have to cloak the Divrei Torah, his face, his Kodesh Baruch Hu, with stories. Why? Because he's asleep. If you speak Torah to him, kind of maybe you'll hear, but he'll keep on sleeping. The idea is that you have to what you need to do. This is what the Tzadikim do, is you need to take a much higher madriga. A much higher madriga, and you embed it in a Maisa, in a story. And the story becomes the interface, that it injects the much higher Torah into the person that just woke up. And that inside the Divrei Torah, inside the story is the Divrei Torah that wake him. So the Rebbe says, why is that? He says, because yes, Shivim Ponim LaTorah, there are 70 facets to the Torah. Today, we only have, like a few, like maybe 4 or 5 different facets to the Torah. You see, by the Rishonim, they have different ways of learning. All the rest, we don't have anymore. We'll have Mashiach will reveal to us. But ultimately, there is 70 facets of the Torah. And they are called Shivim Shonim. They're called 70 years. Because in the spiritual world, time doesn't apply. Time is a seichel. Time is an intellect that is gained, a wisdom that is gained. That's called that is becoming, that is becoming older. Another year. That's why they call zokin. It's the acronym Ze Kona Chochma. This person has acquired Chochma. That's called a zokin. He acquired Chochma, and this is so there's 70 facets. The kol echad mishun mechaver. The shivim shonim is not just because of 70 years. It's also shivim shonim to tell you not shonim milishon years, but shonim milishon shonim, different. Every man is different. There's 70 different facets. You call it every person is different than his first friend. It's richim la'albish, it's uponim davka, and you have to cloak, and you have to embed, you have to conceal. It has to be clothed. Davka tzipur for 3 reasons. The Rebbe says. 1, ki kmo shemerapim es ha'iver. The same way that a blind man is being cured, tzrichim hasagur, you have to close him in a room with no light. You have to bandage him, so he shouldn't see the light suddenly. He'll become blind again. So you have to be mitzamtzim. You have to constrict his exposure to light and introduce him to light gradually. As so what he sees suddenly won't damage him, won't hurt him. The same thing applies to somebody who has been sleepwalking. He's been sleeping his life. You want to show him his face. You want to wake him. You have to cloak this ponim, this light, this connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his own personal connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to cloak it in a story that, it's sort of like, it's the interface. It lowers it down, constricts it, and introduces into the person's psyche, slowly but surely. The Torah is like a time release capsule, this is what it says, Ani betzedek echzeh panecha, and I will justly see your face. Tzedek, I will justly, in justice, will see your face. Justice, tzedek, is called a levush, is the garment. Tzedek levushim. Iyov says, tzedek lavashti, I've worn tzedek. Okay, so what is inside the tzedek? What is inside the garment? Tzedek is a garment. Okay, what is inside? What is it dressing? It's dressing up the emes. The tzedek, the justice system, doesn't mean that it's just. We can see here in Israel, plain flat out. I know it comes as a shock, but justice is just a dressing. It's dressing that conceals the inside, which is the truth. So obviously, justice without truth is meaningless. So tzedek lavashti, ani betzedek echazeh panecha. When I am using justice, when I'm using these clothing, these these tzimtzumim, these constrictions. Then I'll be able to gaze upon your face. I will be able to sustain the light. Only when there are, step down mechanisms, as it were, that the light is in them. So I'll be able to receive it without going blind. Without. Then he says, then I'll be able to be satiated, fully cognizant. I'll be able to see you. Then a person can see if a person first of all sees, in a constricted way, step by step, ultimately he's able to see, full on, without any aids. That when a person is being awoken and from his sleep, from this spiritual slumber, so that the light should not damage him. Because we know that one of the biggest problems by those who want to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the problem of Ribuy Or, too much light. Too much light when there are no kalim to sustain it, breaks the vessel. People fall off completely. So that's the first reading is that the light should come in and step by step properly the way it should, until he's well enough to be able to receive the light, the natural light, which is the time, the light of his own face, of his own panim. But Thomas Sheni, the second, is another reason why a person needs, why the light of the Torah needs to be cloaked. And we say that the Klipos, that until now, he was part of their team, their deal. Whenever there's a light that comes in there, the Chitonian says, "Hey, what is this? You're going to take away? You are our friend. You're with us. We actually had a shaykhus to get chayes from the kedusha, from the Torah, from the tefillah, whatever it is, because you were asleep. So you weren't able, to guard yourself from the chisonim, from the klipos, and they were able, to siphon off chayes the kedusha as much as they wanted. You can see this in many, many ways. So the chitzoni will not grab hold of him. And the Tama Shlishi also has to do with that. The chitzonim that have hold of him, they're not going to let him get out, to wake up from his sleep. So that's why you have to cover up his face. It's like you have to camouflage him. Because if they see suddenly that he sees his panim, they'll grab onto him. They won't, they'll be much more insistent that he keeps with them. That's what it says. Mishana panav v'tasholcheu. If you mishana panav, if you conceal the face, then you'll be able to be set free. And you'll be able to go. Years ago, there was a guy with a Baal Tshuva, and there's nothing that he wanted more. He decided than to win the lottery. Wants to win the lottery. Everybody entertains this private dream like, par butter on a steak to win the lottery. Everybody has this. But he was into it, and he davened, and he prayed, and he prayed, and he prayed. And what do you know? He won the lottery. What happened afterwards? His friends from his bygone days found out his money. And they all came to him. They grabbed hold of him. So slowly they got him into drugs again, whatever it is, and then he died. You can't do it. I mean, wealthy people have this built-in armor that enables them to rebuff an approach, justified or otherwise, to their money. Without it, it wouldn't be rich. A rich man says, I want this, and I also want this. And you want it. I don't care that you want it. I want it. It's mine. So that's when a person becomes, either he's born to a rich house, or he's making, he's working and is becoming rich during his life. Either way, he already has the kalim with which to know how to deal with those who are coming to, the parasites or whatever it is. They know how to deal with it. So this particular Indian is the one thing that a person needs to be careful more than anything else when he's looking for Avodas Hashem is ribuyor, too much light. Kadosh Baruch Hu Milan Gadol and Moshe Rabbeinu, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave the Torah to Am Yisrael. That's the most exalted episode in the history of the world. Kadosh Baruch Hu said he cordoned off the mountain. And he says, hold the people back, and they'll burst forward, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what will happen? They'll fall, they'll die. It's ribuyor. This is the thing that, it's like a moth with a fire. Because the Torah does two things. First of all, convince a person, listen, this whole thing of Avodas Hashem, come on, it's not for you. I mean, look at you. Come on. Just being realistic. What do you want? And it's like, they say about the Rekanti, the Bala Rekanti. He lived the times of Rambam, Rashi, the Ramban, one of the Rishonim, the Rekanti. And in the book, Sefer Rekanti, he writes in the Akdama that he was basically an ignoramus until 60 years old. And some say that actually, because they used to use letters, physical letters for the print, so they said that actually the letter broke, and the original number was 80. He was ignorant until the age of 80, either 60 or 80. Either way, it's pretty impressive. And what did he do? Somebody can, I don't know what, magic wand, whatever. What he would do, every day he would count to the Vesmedrash, and he would put his face in the Aron Kodesh, and he would cry. I want to be zeichet to Torah. Again and again and again and again. Now, if you're one of the mispalim in this Besmedrash, okay, you see this guy already for decades, I don't know, 50, I don't know, 60, 40 years, 30 years, whatever it is, every day comes with, puts his head by the Kodesh, and he's crying. Oh, what'd you do? You probably go over to him and he says, Mr. Rekanti, listen, sit down, have a cup of tea, eat a biscuit, It's not good for you to cry like this. You're hurting yourself. You got to look after your health. I mean, what's going on? Every single day. One day when he was either 60 or 80, he writes it. He writes down in that dome to his sefer. He said he fell asleep. His head was inside of a kodesh, and he dreamt they're giving him to drink from the Be'er Shel Miriam. Just a little cup from the well of Miriam and Neviah. The same thing that Arizal gave later on to Reb Chaim Vital. And whoever drinks from Be'er Shel Miriam, his mind opens up a Torah, and he never forgets where he learns. Suddenly becomes healthy, and it heals all the illnesses. It does everything. That's the magic potion. And what happened? He became the Rekanti. The Rekanti is a mainstay in Halacha, in Kabbalah, in the portion of everything. There's Rekanti on everything. Crying does the trick. Longing does the trick. You long and you wait, and you long and you wait. This is very, very important for us. The Yetzer Hara wants to tell us, listen, forget about it. It's not for you. Drink some tea, eat a biscuit, relax. So you have to be insistent. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what experience it taught you, what your history has taught you, what people think of you and people tell you. It doesn't matter. You always begin again. But once a person is decisive and is resolute that he's going to go, then the Yetzer Hara has another trick in his bag. You want to go, run. Cup more. Wake up, Chatzois, and do this, and do that, and do this, and learn this all these hours or whatever. When you don't have the canning for that. It has to be done, step by step. On one hand, you can't fall asleep, on your guard. You have to wake up. You have to push ahead. On the other hand, as you're moving ahead, it has to be with specific guidance. As we said before, the light has to be revealed slowly, until he's able to see the light. This is a very, very delicate balance of showing the face and concealing the face, which is done by concealing the Torah. This high Torah, his own ponem, his own face, his own connection to Hashem in stories. It does that. It administers it, slowly by slowly. It keeps away, it hides it from the Chitzonia, from the friends from the past. Who should not, come looking for him, and so, and grab hold of him and not let him go, and so forth and so on. And it says, and the Rebbe says, you should know that there are few levels of this. The various levels, the various facets in the fact that you're cloaking his face. Some of the Tzadikim, they cloak inside the story that they're telling, and they were this story, that story. His own face. That's the Torah that they hide inside the story. Sometimes there's a person that cannot be awoken with his own face. He has to be shown a higher ponim. That's the kind of Torah that he needs. He's greater than the level of the ponim that he lost when he fell asleep. Once he wakes up, you have to show him, you have to cloak his Purim. I say a ponim, a Torah which is higher, Seder Torah, which are much higher than his own original opponent. Lefamim gamken, sometimes malbishim b'divrei Torah. You actually tell him Torah. What's the pshat? They're saying a very exalted, very, very high Torah. And you cannot tell it the way it actually is. It's being cloaked, it's being hidden, it's being put in, embedded in the lower Torah. When the entire Likutey Moharan is that. The entire Likutey Moharan is Torah that is way, way beyond that which we see here. The Torah that we see here, there was the one of the Talmidim of Rabbeinu. His name was the Tirovitz Magid. Was the Magid from the town of Tirovitz. He was original Talmud of the Magid of Mizrich. And he was a friend, Chaver, with Reb Nochum of Chernobyl. Famous Nochum of Chernobyl, Baal Meor Einayim, and the thing is that they would come visit each other once a year. I don't know if it's once a year, 1 year this, 1 year that, I'm not sure. One would go to this one to visit him, and the other year, one would go to this one. And he was over 70 years old when Rabbeinu was 18, and or 19, 18 or 19, and he became the Rebbe's Talmud. You're talking a person, the Baal Tanya, when has the Siddur, the Siddur of the Baal Tanya, the famous Siddur, he asked, he got a haskama from Terovitz Magid for the Siddur. You're talking about a giant that he was Zoicha. Even though he was already an elderly man, to realize who the Rebbe was. And when he heard Likutey Moharan, Rebbe's Torah, one time he said, I saw fire coming out of the Rebbe's mouth. Now, he was no kid. He wasn't a simpleton. He was a Baal Mocha Kodesh, a huge Talmud of the Maggid of Mizrich, a friend of Reb Nochum Chernobyl. And he said, I saw fire coming out, when he said it to her, I saw fire coming out of his mouth. Can you imagine what eyes he had? And he said, but the thing that freaked him out more, he says that, I don't know, Motzei Shabbos, Motzei Yom Tov, whatever this was, he saw this young man, Reb Nochum, was running with a sheaf of papers in his hands. So he says, come here, what is this? He says, he took a look at it, and he said, there's a fire on the paper. How can anybody put the fire on the paper? When he says it, you see the fire, fine. Put it on paper? That on the paper, it's fire. If you have the eyes to see. The entire Likutey Moharan is a Torah which is thousands and thousands and thousands of levels lower than where Rabbeinu perceived it. And he brought it down, 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 up until he tells us the Torah is in the Likutey Moharan. And the Torah Magid said about the Likutey Moharan, he says, what shall I tell you? He says, this is higher than Tikkun Ezer, which is the highest secret of Torah that we have, is Tikkun Ezer. Because the Zohar itself, Rav Shimon bar Yochai said, is actually the Torah of Rabbi Akiva. But Rabbi Akiva didn't have the reshus, didn't have the permission to expose it, to be megaled. Shimon bar Yochai, he had the reshus. But that's not the Chidush of Rav Shimon bar Yochai. The Chidush of Rav Shimon bar Yochai is Tikkun Ezer. And Rabbeinu said that there's no comparison between the Zohar and Tikkun Hazeh. In Tikkun Hazeh, basically every single sentence is a Torah, separate Torah. Torah for sich. And the Torah, like I said, this is higher than Tikkun Hazeh. And that's the lower Torah. That's the Purim Isis. And Lamaisa, when Rabbeinu says, what Rabbeinu actually wants from us, the kind of tikkun that Rabbeinu wants to affect in us. Rabbeinu one time says, I will start saying stories, which is famous Rabbi Nachman stories, Purim Isis. He also said he said it as if saying, well, if I'm not able to achieve what it is that I want to achieve with Torahs, I'll do it with stories. So the stories of Rabbeinu is way beyond the Torahs that we need. And B'ezras Hashem, we will learn, B'ezras Hashem, next week, that Sipurim Isis is of beyond the 70 years, is for people that fell off from all the 70 facets of the Torah. There's no way to wake them up. Even, with stories that usually cloak the Torahs from the 70 panim. And the 70 between Shonim Kadmonios. B'ezras Hashem will talk about it next week. What shall I tell you? Ashreinu. Ashreinu, Pashut. It's very simple. Baruch Hashem, our friend Avraham Setman is in Uman now, or on his way to Uman. Yeah. You see, he's not here. Yeah. No. He went to Uman with his wife and children. That's right. And the Torah B'ezras Hashem is the Ilu Nishmas Avram ben Osher Anshel. That's the name? Yeah. I remember better than him. Refer to all those who need refer in Am Yisrael, B'ezras Hashem, all those in the Tzlacha, all those who need Shidduchim will get Shidduchim, all those who need all the issues, Begashim, Beruchim, B'ezras Hashem. We just went through Hanukkah. Ashreinu. Shem Yazor, shall have a good Shabbos. It's an amazing. These stories, I have to tell you that these parshas, Yosef and his brother, I can't read it without starting to cry. It's so emotional, isn't it? It is so emotional that Yosef, meets them and he has to go back to cry and come back. I was like, how can you not cry? Weep and all the whole thing is just like that's the tzaddik with Am Yisrael. He has to be malbish his ponim. He has to look like a pharaoh, like a melech of Mitzrayim, in order to be malbish the Torah, the ponim of his brothers. They should be able to come to a matzav that he should be able to be revealed, and they realize that when they come with the tzaddik, then Yaakov can come to Mitzrayim, Am Yisrael can be created in earnest. So, Ad Kan, B'ezras Hashem, to Parshas Vayigash. Let me just stop there. According, stop there.